Have you ever seen a situation where a single act of kindness just completely blows up? Well, today we're diving into a wild story just like that. We're going to see how healing one man in Jerusalem spirals into accusations of sedition and a life or death showdown over divine identity. Let's get right into it. So our story kicks off not with some quiet teaching, but with a huge public miracle right in the heart of Jerusalem. And this one event, it instantly draws a line in the sand. It forces everyone who sees it, or even hears about it, to pick a side. Okay, so here's the core of it all. Jesus sees a man who's been blind his entire life, and he heals him. I mean, just imagine, an absolutely incredible moment. And this is the detail that changes everything. He does it on the Sabbath, the holy day of rest. For the religious leaders, this isn't a miracle. Nope, this is a crime. And the fallout is immediate, and it is messy. This one miracle just shatters the community into four totally different camps. First, you've got the neighbors. They're just plain confused. They're like, wait, is that even the same guy we've known our whole lives? Then you have the Pharisees, the religious authorities, who launched this hostile interrogation, basically treating the whole thing like a crime scene. What about the man's parents? Well, they're terrified. They just dodge all the questions. And finally, you have the man himself, the one person who simply tells it like it is. So what happens to him for telling the truth? For testifying to his own healing? He gets excommunicated, cast out of the synagogue, thrown out of his community, cut off from his entire religious world. The personal cost for this guy getting his sight back is just immense. But here's the interesting part. While his own community is pushing him out, something really profound is happening inside the man himself. He's on a journey, not just from blindness to sight, but from being a patient to becoming a true believer. So let's actually trace how his understanding grows. And you can really see his journey of faith mapped out here. It's a clear progression. At first, he's very matter of fact. He just calls him the man called Jesus. Simple enough. But as he's interrogated, his conviction gets stronger. He starts defending Jesus, declaring he is a prophet. Then he starts thinking it through, and he reasons, look, a sinner couldn't do this, so he must be from God. And then the final step, after he's been thrown out and finds himself face to face with Jesus again, he worships him as the Son of Man, a powerful, divine title. What a transformation, right? So Jesus sees all this division, this chaos, and he uses it as a teaching moment. He pivots from this one specific healing to a really powerful universal metaphor. He introduces this allegory of the shepherd to explain who the true leaders of God's people are and who the imposters are. And he lays out this really sharp contrast. On one hand, you have the good shepherd. He says this person comes in through the main gate, he knows his sheep by name, and he would literally give his life for them. On the other hand, you have thieves and robbers. They sneak in some other way, and their only goal is to steal, kill, and destroy the flock. He is drawing a very, very clear line between himself and the religious leaders who just kicked the healed man out. And then he makes his claim, point blank. I am the good shepherd. Now, this wasn't just some nice story. This was a direct claim to be the true shepherd of Israel, a title that was basically reserved for God in the scriptures. You can just feel the tension ratcheting up. Okay, quick pause, because we need some context here. The setting for this final showdown is crucial. It's all happening during the Feast of Dedication, what we know today as Hanukkah. This festival celebrates a major military victory and the purification of the temple. So, it's a time of intense national pride and religious passion in Jerusalem. The perfect storm for a confrontation. And that's exactly what we get. All this tension that's been building and building since the blind man was healed, it finally boils over. And it happens in the most public, most sacred place possible, on Solomon's porch, right there on the temple grounds. The religious leaders, they've had enough. They corner him, no more miracles, no more allegories, no more implications. They give him an ultimatum. If you are the Christ, the Messiah, just stop with the games and tell us. Tell us plainly. His answer is just incredible. He doesn't give them a simple yes or no. Instead, he points right back to his actions, like healing a man born blind, as all the evidence they need. Then he connects it right back to his shepherd story, telling them, my works speak for me, but you don't get it, because you are not my sheep. He's basically saying the proof is staring you in the face, but you refuse to see it because you're not on my side. And then he drops the line that changes everything. The most direct and, to them, the most outrageous statement he could possibly make. He gets rid of all the ambiguity and declares, I and the Father are one.
He's claiming equality with God himself.
The reaction is instant, and it is violent. There's no more debate, no more questions. To them, this is the ultimate crime, the worst blasphemy you could commit, and it's a capital offense. For the second time in this story, they pick up stones to execute him on the spot. Which brings us all the way back to this one central question. How on earth does a story that starts with an incredible act of compassion, giving a man sight for the first time in his life, escalate into a full-blown life-or-death clash over the very identity of God? It just goes to show how a single miracle was seen as an act of sedition.